Okay, we will be explaining how to use the benchtop gear pump filler today. To power it on, relatively straightforward. We got a normal cable with a standard power plug going to a power supply which can be turned on and off. This power supply is plugged into the side, so the entire gear pump filler itself is on 24 volts. And the only 240 volt connection goes to this. Now we're going to start with the pump operation, how to assemble it, how to take it apart. We're going to have these two hand screws that we'll be taking off. And the entire pump will slide off. Now you have your pump head. On the pump head you have another 4 screws. You can take the front cover off. We'll do that as well. So this front cover comes off. It's a little tight, you just wiggle it off. In this you'll see the O-ring. You see the gears. The gears come out. You can take them off and remove them for cleaning, both sides. This is also how you replace the gears if ever they wear out. On the bottom we have a nozzle which can be changed. You just remove those those nuts. The entire thing comes off. Relatively simple. You've got a flange that's holding the whole thing on, and your nozzle itself. There's 3 different nozzles in the set. This one is the softest one. The honey goes through and it closes on the suck back action, removing the drip. And we'll just put that back on. Just goes through. Got a little locator inside the pump where it sits. And that's your nozzle. On the top we've got a hose connection. Works exactly the same. 2 nuts to remove it for cleaning. There's a little seal underneath, silicone seal, same thing. And you just hook your hose with a hose clamp on the top, which is where your product comes from. Now we'll put this back together. The gears there's 2 different gears. One has a little hexagon in it that will go to the top. Fits in quite nicely. The other one is just round on both sides and will just fit in. Then we'll get the O-ring which goes back into this groove. And the cover you see as well, there's one with a hexagon, one with a circle, that way you always know which way goes where. Other way. Wiggle it back on, make sure it's tight. And then we'll put the short screws back. And then we put it back on the unit. Slide it in and use the long bolts to bolt it on. The whole unit is height adjustable. Has a little handle on the top, this one here. What happens is you loosen it and it's enough to, I'll just put this up a bit. It's enough to just move it by half a turn and you can move this entire head up and down. Do use 2 hands and then tighten it half a rotation and it's tight again, which is great. Now for the operation of the unit, we got some things. This is the page that shows up when you start the unit. We can go through that again. We turn it off and we'll turn it back on. Once it comes up, you navigate with the up and down arrows like so. We'll start with the setup page. We can change different things like the filling volumes, which are predefined, from 20 all the way up to 7.5 kilos. We can just run the pump by itself by pressing the play button. We have the unit of product, gram, oz or milliliter. We can select the product with we have a couple of predefined setups for honey, matte or gilet, which is like a gelatin or like molasses sort of thing, but we're going with honey. You can turn on and off accessories. We don't really have to do anything here because we don't have any accessories. We can reset the whole unit. We see information, how many fills done per day, how many packages in total, just rough numbers. And on the ABC you can obviously change the language. We'll keep that as English. Now the very top one is the manual operation. So we can see now this is set to 18 revolutions per minute. We go 4 pulses backwards at the end of the fill. So what's going to happen when we press play, as you can see the status as well, it says stop. Go back a bit. When we press the play button, the pump will just run. This is ideal for priming because it will just run and not turn off. This is continuous. With the little pause button again, it stops, and as you can see it goes these 4 revolutions to the back. We can increase that as well. So we go to 14 pulses and do that again. You see that the return will be longer now, to reduce dripping and cause a bit of a suction on the nozzle. To change the speeds on the unit, like the filling speed, there's a little dial on the side here. When I turn that, you can see that the pulses go up. The maximum is 100 rotations per minute. When we run this now, it's obviously a lot faster. However, filling with cold honey, it needs to be kept relatively slow. I would say below 25 rotations per minute to get the accuracy that it's properly measuring the honey and not cavitating due to the thickness of the product. As I said, this is a manual for priming grade. We can go back in the automatic page now. This is where you do your filling. You see as well it's set to 25. We can see it's set to 20 milliliters at the moment. Wherever it shows millimeter, we go back in the setup, go to the units, change it to gram, go back to auto, and now we see gram. So you change your filling volume up on the top. You always confirm with the little tick button, say 500 gram. And you have 2 ways of starting the pump now. We're going to change this revolution, usually about 5 for the return is enough, or let's do 7. Have to play around with that a little bit, how it works best to get rid of the drip. So you can either press the start button, in which case the pump will now dispense 500 gram. You see the little indicator here showing how much is roughly filled. And when it has finished dispensing, it will do the 7 pulses backwards and stop. Now, instead of pressing all the time start and stop, you also have a little trigger sensor on the bottom here, which does the same thing. You take your jar, you put it in, and it will just run every time you push this trigger. If you push this again, it will also stop. So it's the same as the start stop. If you need to calibrate on what you should do to run your honey initially, run a fill on 500 gram. Make sure you measure and tare your container on an accurate scale. Do your run with 500 gram and run it all the way out, and then measure what has actually been dispensed. If you got 500 gram dispense, you're good to go. You can start your production, happy weppy. However, if you get a deviation, say you only filled 450 gram, you filled over or under by X amount of gram, what you then do is you go to the plus and minus section here, and you enter exactly how much or how many grams you have dispensed just now. Say you dispense 480 and you want the 500, you just select the 480 that you have dispensed, press confirm, and the pump will recalibrate itself to fill 500 gram the next time. If you have too many inconsistencies over multiple fills, so you get 400 and you get 500 and you get 450, you're probably running the pump too fast, which means it's cavitating with the thick product and you need to run it at a slower speed. You do have this option here as well, which is an automatic start-stop. However, I don't find it very practical, especially since we have that little sensor on the bottom here, which is much more reliable that you always have a jar under it. Otherwise, if you have the continuous operation where it turns on and off automatically, you might look away, you might not have a jar there, you fill all the honey all over the base plate and it makes a whole lot of mess. And that is pretty much it. You got a separate on and off switch here on the side as well to turn the unit off. Or this one here to turn it on and off, or you just pull the plug out of the socket to turn it on and off, which is all good. And that's pretty much it. The other thing I haven't explained yet, which I'm just about to, when you want to run your product the first time and your pump and everything is clean, you take these two off, you take this connection off, and you have to put quite a bit of honey with a teaspoon or something into the gears before reconnecting the hose and everything to be able to create the liquid seal with the honey, which then will actually suck the product. It can suck from about 1.5 meters height and height difference, like the honey, say the honey is in a bucket on the floor 1.5 meters away. It will be able to suck it as long as you have honey inside the gears, pre-primed with a teaspoon. And that's it.